Another week, another Roll Jays podcast. Jimmy Allen, Alex Drake with you here today, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing. We've got a great show lined up for you. Mason Miller joins us to talk about what exactly last year meant to him and what's going to be different about him going into year three. Creighton video man, assistant coach, do it all, IT guy. Casey Matthews is going to join us later in the show, and then a special guest, Creighton's SID, Rob Anderson, joins us to talk about all things CWS, College World Series, what he does during basketball season, and for the rest of the Jays programs as well. We're going to talk a lot of Creighton basketball in this episode, so we thought we would talk about something to open the show up with that we haven't really touched much on, but is very relevant to college athletics, and that's the situation going on at Northwestern, Alex. And obviously, Pat Fitzgerald, Northwestern's football coach, loses his job because all of these hazing allegations were centered around around the football program. We've found out that there's other issues going on in Evanston. It's trickled down to the women's basketball program, the volleyball program, etc. When you hear about a story like this, that's all encompassing, right? This is kind of taken front stage in all of college athletics right now. Obviously, a lot of people immediately go back to Art Briles and Baylor and loss of institutional control, and obviously the death penalty that happened at SMU. When you're hearing all of this, what's your knee-jerk reaction for you for punishment when it comes to Northwestern?
Oh, I have always kind of frowned upon NCAA sanctions to an extent, right?
Like, everybody has.
And the reason I say that is, like, obviously Northwestern, unless there's evidence that, like, the athletic department as a whole was made aware of it, like, they've already done the right thing. How can you penalize the kids that are just now getting to campus for?
And I think that's why we'll never see a death penalty situation ever again. And we kind of just recently saw it with Tennessee's football program, right? They had over 100 infractions, and all of those people are gone. And instead of taking it out on the current and the future volunteers, they kind of put it to Jeremy Pruitt, to where the former Tennessee football coach, where if he ever comes back into college athletics, he's going to show cause to be there for X amount of years. And I believe it was 4. I think that is the right approach going forward.
Yeah, I would much rather see those sanctions levied against a coach. The NCAA did it with Rick Pitino too, which is why he went and coached in Europe for a little bit before heading back to Iona. And I think that's the way to do it. If the coach is the one leading the charge, and whether or not they're involved in these issues up front, it's still their program. They got to be in control, right? And so I've never felt that it's fair to penalize future kids and future teams, especially when that staff is gone.
I think the former approach, when we talk about the death penalty and how things were handled in the late 80s, early 70s, and was kind of, we have to punish the fan base. And I think that's just been revisited because that's obviously not who athletics should be about. It drives the dollars. You're able to build facilities based on the number of boosters you have and dollars coming in from ticket sales, T-shirt sales, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I think with TV deals and everything else coming in for money-wise, especially in the Big Ten and the Big East, I think that's kind of changed the way it's looked at, because it feels like it's too big to fail at this point, right? College athletics, it just feels like there's so many other avenues of revenue coming in. I think you have to hit them where it counts. And I think it has to be their wallet, and B, the people that cause the infractions, not the people that are picking up the pieces and trying to fix it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, even when the Art Briles stuff came down, like, Briles was gone, the AD was gone. Yeah. Does a bowl ban make sense? Not really, because you're not allowing that program to get back off the ground.
Well, we've got to hit a point where people are banning themselves from bowls. We see guys that are high potential draft picks sitting out of bowl games anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. So, like, I've never understood punishing the people that are there now when everybody's gone. Now, depending on how widespread this is at Northwestern and how much they're able to prove, maybe there is something that comes down. I don't know if there's any like true Title IX violations involved here,
Right.
but uh, as this story breaks and continues to grow and gather more legs, you could see a new AD in Evanston very quickly too.
It kind of feels like it may spread up even further than the athletic director. It kind of feels like there may be a major overhaul coming to Northwestern. And when you have a university that's that academic centric and athletics really does take a back seat to what's going on the academia side of things, you have to wonder how much of an internal struggle, because there's been so much made about who's next after Pat Fitzgerald. And I don't think we've seen the end of firing for coaches, and who's going to take that job next. And Ed Orgeron has obviously said that he's interested if they come calling, but you have to wonder if there are wholesale changes to a university that's invested hundreds of millions of dollars into their football facilities, their training room facilities, and really for the first time in school history, put financial effort towards athletics, and then this happens. How much you're going to see a regression from the chancellor and the people who make the decisions at that university, especially if there are changes. And it almost feels like it'll be forced. Flip side of that, you have to wonder how that's going to affect the coaching hire too, and who ends up being interested in that job.
Yeah, and it's also been quiet. Like they've already fired the baseball coach too. So this is, I think there's a lot more to come out than we know about.
The most interesting part about the baseball coach and even Pat Fitzgerald to some degree is how adamant both were that they knew nothing about any of this. And you even saw the baseball coach, I'm paraphrasing here, basically saying, I dare you to prove that I did know, because there's no way I could have, essentially. And obviously they had merit to fire him, so there must have been something there. But it felt like both guys, and maybe Pat Fitzgerald felt untouchable. We saw that at Ohio State, right, with Jim Tressel when he got fired, where the athletic director comes out and says, I'm waiting for Jim Tressel to fire me. Maybe Pat Fitzgerald felt he had that enough clout where he's like, I am Northwestern football. And to some degree, he was right. But I just don't know what grounds you would have as a losing baseball program to kind of have the same approach. So that's been the weirdest thing to all of this. And maybe that's legal consultation coming out saying admit nothing.
Yeah.
But it's been that's been the most surprising is how much they were both so adamant that there was no way that they'd be involved in this.
Yeah, and Fitzgerald, I mean, he lawyered up quick and he lawyered up strong.
Yeah.
So, but some of his players are lawyering up, or former players are lawyering up separately too, to press charges against the university. I think this thing's going to take a long time to play out.
Yeah, and unfortunately, when you're talking about legal allegations and so many different moving parts and so many people being involved, so many different lawyers being involved, it really, what I hope doesn't happen, if all the allegations are true and they're found in cause to be fired for those reasons. I mean, Jim Foster went 10-40 at Northwestern. I mean, he didn't really have legs to stand on from a performance standpoint. So they had cause to fire him, even if this doesn't come true. But
right.
If they find Pat Fitzgerald was heavily involved in this, in the hazing, and the Shrek clap stuff was true, and him signaling to older players which players needed to be hazed during practice, as alleged, I really hope this doesn't go 5, 7, 8, 10 years down the road to the point where it's just, and we're done. Because when things take this much time, that's usually the case.
I hope it's a lot more like Suits, where it can be, decided in one episode.
Right. I just don't think that's the case.
No, I've just been binging Suits, and so now I'm up to date on all my legal jargon. There's going to be a lot of depositions held.
Maybe we need to start doing a segment where we talk about what we're watching on TV on this podcast. Pat Fitzgerald, though, so let's single him out specifically. As these allegations are being unfolded, listen, he's had some very successful seasons at Northwestern. Not lately, but he has had a couple. Do you think we've seen Hugh Freeze and other coaches get opportunity? You brought up Rick Pitino, get chances otherwhere and other places, and then come back. Do you think we ever see Pat Fitzgerald coaching major Division I football again?
I don't know, and the only reason I say I don't know is because he's been a fringe go to the NFL guy for so long.
Sure.
Um, I could see him ending up in the NFL as a position coach here pretty quickly, and probably an analyst of some sort this season, even. Um,
I don't know if I agree with that, but I mean, I guess anything's possible.
I mean, Deshaun Watson was on a roster.
Yeah, I just when there's this many people involved, because obviously with Deshaun Watson's case, you had so many people in the background coming forward that didn't want to testify, and it feels like everybody in the Northwestern case is just like, put me on the stand.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know how quickly an NFL franchise will want to get invested in a guy who, I mean, hasn't been in the league for a very long time. Albeit, it seems like he's pretty good at what he does, but that's a pretty big jump.
yeah. The only, like I said, an analyst firm probably if something were to happen this year, and that's a small investment from a team, and
Sure.
if you think he can bring some upside to what he can do in that role, I can see somebody like the Cleveland Browns taking a shot.
Social media backlash, though, I mean that could come in waves. I don't know. Well, this is the Roll Jays podcast. You're listening to it to hear about Creighton basketball. We're going to get to all of that and more. Mason Miller, Creighton forward, joins us next. Talk about his previous season in year 2, the development of year 3, what his role is going to be on this team, and a whole lot more. We come back here on the Roll Jays podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing.
Do you need a customized online marketing plan and creative campaigns to help scale your business and achieve goals in 2023? Pixel Fire Marketing can not only help you achieve those goals, but we will help you crush them this year. Pixel Fire Marketing lives and breathes digital marketing. Pixel Fire Marketing has experts in strategic content creation, social media marketing, and website development. Check out Pixel Fire Marketing today and attack marketing in 2023.
Welcome back into the Roll Jays podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing. We're joined now by a guy that had a very exciting season last year and has the potential to have an even bigger one this year. It's Mason Miller. Mason, thank you very much for joining us and taking time out of your busy summer to be here with us.
Yeah, no problem at all.
We were big fans of yours last year. I mean, you can kind of talk to this a little bit, but I just kind of felt like last year you were the hustle guy on this team. Every time you touched the court, it felt like the energy from the team took a jump up. Was that a concentrated effort on your part, or is that just how you play the game?
That was one thing I wanted to work on a lot. High school, I was, everyone's like you said, everyone's kind of like a little different. I was kind of like one of the better players on the team, and then this year, it's coming back with like all these good players, and you kind of got to carve out your own role. And this year, I had to carve out my own role and figure something else out that other people might not be able to do as better than me, and I know I can hustle. So that's one thing I kind of wanted to be good at.
Now, you might remember the game. I don't remember this game specifically, but it was probably my favorite play of the season. You ended up full dive on the floor, save a possession, and then flare off to the other wing and can a 3. Do you remember which game that was?
I'm pretty sure that was the Seton Hall game, if I'm correct.
It was, yes.
Yeah.
Now, can you talk about just the mental aspect of that? Like, hey, you're on the floor. Like, what goes into immediately getting ready for that shot after getting off the floor? Because that's kind of a skill that a lot of players don't have. They have to get back into a rhythm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, after I dove on the floor, I was racing the corner, and I looked at the clock. I'm pretty sure it was a low clock, so I mean, I know how to get the shots off, and that's something I really work on a lot. I like to work on quick shots because if you're in the corner, having some space in the corner. That's the one thing you got to be good at. Less space over there, so you just got to get up fast. So that's something I'm working on a lot.
We talked a couple weeks ago with Steve Murfeld. He kind of talked about the spacing which in the system plays. How much of a learning curve was that for you when you first got to Creighton and learning the pace and the space of this offense? And how much has that kind of slowed down for you going into this third season?
Yeah, no, it's definitely changed a lot. First coming in, it was definitely a big change for me. Playing a lot faster than I'm really used to. I mean, we like to play fast when I was in high school, but it's a whole different thing when you get to college. It's a lot faster. Everything's a lot bigger. It's a lot bigger. So it definitely got a little challenging. But coming into this year, I've gotten a lot better, got a lot more used to it, and I'm ready for it this year for sure.
You mentioned your role a year ago, and that's going to be a big theme this year. Obviously, coaching staff has gone out and added a lot of depth to this team, a lot of new faces. But there are some returning, and you're one of those guys as well. How much do you think your role will change from a year ago going into this season?
I think it would definitely change a little bit. I mean, we still got a lot of good guys on the team. Hopefully, it can change, give me a couple more minutes. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's whatever's best for the team. And as of right now, it's looking pretty good for me. So I just got to keep working and keep staying in that gym and keep doing what I got to do.
Going into this offseason, what was a part of your game that you wanted to work on the most to best situate yourself going into this next season?
I think doing things better with the ball in my hands. I was kind of off the ball a lot last year, so kind of getting the ball more in my hands, coming off some pick and rolls, being a little more physical for sure. But, I mean, mainly doing more things with the ball instead of just staying off the ball a little bit less.
You have one of the weirder dynamics on the team. Your uncle's on this coaching staff, Ryan Miller. How cool has it been able to play for your uncle? And how much has that dynamic changed since day one walking into Creighton going into year 3?
Oh, yeah, no, it definitely changed a lot. It kind of felt a little weird at first, but, I mean, I got used to it for sure. And now it's honestly a great thing. I get to joke around with him in practice all the time, do some challenges with him all the time, some shooting contests. So it's been fun. Definitely been fun.
Has it ever been hard to separate that's my uncle versus that's my position coach?
No, not really. I mean, at first, definitely a little bit, but I've gotten used to it. Like first year when I was redshirting, he was like the main coach for me since I was on the redshirt team, and he was coaching that team. So, but after that, I kind of got used to it.
Do you ever reach out to a guy like Doug early on to ask how that dynamic works, seeing as Doug played for his dad?
That's a good point. I probably should have talked to him. That probably would have been a good thing I could have talked to him about. I didn't think about that. Yeah.
If there's, and maybe that's the answer, if there's anything that you could go back in time 3 years ago and have a conversation with freshman Mason Miller and say, hey, do this differently, is there anything you would have changed about your journey and your path at this point at Creighton?
Yeah, it probably would be one of the main things I probably should have talked about right there for sure.
Do you you mentioned it earlier, you didn't play a ton of minutes last year, but you did play some key points. Do you have any goals that you've set for yourself going into this season 23-24?
Help the team as much as I can. I mean, obviously playing more is a big thing, but I mean, whatever I can do to really help the team and make the team be a winning team this year.
Mason, how excited are you for the newcomers also come to join you? Like, are you taking any of those guys under your wings to kind of show them how things work around campus?
Yeah, so actually I knew 2 people. I mean, they're on my high school team back in high school, Jonathan Lawson and Brock Weiss. So, I mean, I knew them a lot. So, I mean, they're definitely 2 people I'd like to help a lot, show them, like, how everything is. Like, even, like, we had some open runs yesterday, and Brock was there. So, even, like, when I was in the open runs yesterday, I was showing them how to do everything and whatever, like, what we got to do at Creighton to do better, too, as well there.
Obviously, it's a big jump from Fred King to go from the Bahamas to Omaha, culture, temperature-wise. It's a little bit different from Memphis, too. How much has Jonathan adapted to life at Creighton, and how much is he enjoying it?
Yeah, he hasn't seen nothing yet, unfortunately. he's got the winter to go through still.
Wait till November.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys get speaking of the Bahamas, you guys get a very cool opportunity to head down to the islands here in a couple weeks. Do you have any sights or things you're looking forward to doing off the basketball court while you're there?
Oh, I definitely want to go to that beach a couple times. That's always fun for me to do. I love the beach. I've been there a couple times, so that'll definitely be a fun time for me.
While in
Mace-
Hawaii, we've seen the coaches wear some pretty horrendous Hawaiian shirts. Do you have any Hawaiian memorabilia that you're going to take with you to the Bahamas, or any beach gear?
I have a couple. I have a little bit of beach gear I'm going to bring with me. A couple of the bucket hats we got last year.
Sure.
Yeah.
The bucket hats are classic. You guys got to wear those on the golf course too.
Exactly.
Mason, going back to where you were at when you first came in, what obviously the speed has slowed down for you upstairs. What is something else that you feel like you've really developed on that's put you in a position to move forward?
Probably a big thing is I like rebounding. I want to keep getting better at rebounding and helping the team in that way. Since I'm going to be one of the fours this year, the big thing is since the fives I always be boxing out the bigger dudes. I got to help rebound when I can. That's probably one of the bigger things I got to work on for sure.
I'll be honest with you, Mason. I thought you were sneakily probably the best offensive rebounder on the team last year. You snuck in there and kept a lot of plays alive. So I think that fits your niche pretty well.
Yeah.
Mason, we appreciate your time today. That's Creighton forward Mason Miller. Maybe we'll catch up with you in a couple weeks after the season gets started. Good luck this year, and thank you for your time today.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
We'll be right back talking to Creighton SID Rob Anderson here on the Roll Jays podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing.
Do you need a customized online marketing plan and creative campaigns to help scale your business and achieve goals in 2023? Pixel Fire Marketing can not only help you achieve those goals, but we will help you crush them this year. Pixel Fire Marketing lives and breathes digital marketing. Pixel Fire Marketing has experts in strategic content creation, social media marketing, and website development. Check out Pixel Fire Marketing today and attack marketing in 2023.
Welcome back into the Roll Jays podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing. Alex Drake, Jimmy Allen, joined now by the SID at Creighton, Rob Anderson, who joins us for the first time on this podcast for maybe the busiest guy at Creighton University, Rob Anderson. We appreciate your time today. Thank you for being here.
No problem.
You're coming off, obviously, one of the busier times of the year with the College World Series just ending. That's held at Charles Schwab Field for anybody that doesn't live in Omaha that's watching this. Creighton plays a big role in that. Can you just kind of explain what your role is at the CWS and how that kind of changes on a year-by-year basis?
Sure. We get a lot of help from the NCAA, but, between the staff that I work with at Creighton with Glenn Sisk, Patrick Davis, but between us, we handle the stat program, which sends the live stats, feeds the scoreboard for the stats. When you see the updated batting averages, pitch counts, things like that. We do that. We print out the lineup sheets pregame with the batting order that everybody's always anxious to get to see who's pitching or who's in the lineup. And then also postgame, the box scores and whatnot. But then we also have one or two of us during the games that kind of do a lot of just the notes. I mean, a page or two on each team, just of career highs, trends, highlights. Sometimes it's about the team. Sometimes it's an individual. Sometimes it's overall tournament. Hey, there's been this many homers through this many games compared to this in past years. So that kind of stuff. If it's a lot of, if you see a lot of random tweets during the College World Series, a lot of that stuff is stuff that we're putting together or looking up for those notes. And then certainly we get the ESPN Stats and Information Group help us a ton with some of the stuff they put together. And I usually try not to tweet that, but we use a lot of it in the documents that the media has access to. But I try not to tweet their stuff if that's for them to tweet. I don't want to steal their stuff.
It's hard not to notice when you're talking about that how much you light up when you talk about it. How much of that aspect of this job is kind of what led you to this path in life, and how much do you enjoy the finding out the little nuances about players or teams or universities, and how much do you enjoy that?
I enjoy it, and I've been to enough World Series now where I just how my brain works. I remember, oh yeah, that happened 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and I was at the game probably, and I can't always remember the exact, year or whatever, but I mean, you go to enough games, they just kind of stick with you, and key moments, key players. It's something I went to 2 games in 2001 before I started at Creighton. I was here for something else involving the opening ceremonies. They used to have a home run derby, and we had a student athlete at my previous school that was in the home run derby, and he ended up winning it. We were down on the field with Bob Gibson and Ozzie Smith and all that, and it was pretty cool. And then, a year later, I had the chance to interview with Creighton. So it's a national championship event. You think of how much people freak out. I know you guys cover a ton of basketball. How much people would go over the moon if Creighton made the Final Four in basketball.
Yeah.
And here, this is essentially the Final Four every single year, a mile from my office. That, it's still a cool event. Just every year doesn't mean it's any less cool.
Right.
Rob, has the Creighton SID always been tied into the College World Series since it's been here in Omaha? Is that kind of new since it's moved to TD/Schwab? Or has Creighton always been tied in from that aspect?
As long as I've been at Creighton, we've been involved. Creighton's the host institution, has been. The World Series goes back to Omaha, I think, since 1950. And certainly I was not alive in 1950, but I know the last
we weren't going to
30 years. I know going back to even like 1991 when the Creighton team was in the World Series, I know there were a number of people helping. And it's not just our office, it's athletic training, it's facilities. It's, a lot of them come to Creighton to use the weight room, the practice fields. Ed and his staff help coordinate a lot of that. It's by no means are we there's probably 30, 40 people that in some shape or form, a lot of our creative people are helping the NCAA with some of the cool photos and videos that they put out. There's a whole team of people.
You guys obviously at Creighton have gone through a pretty big change from Bruce Rasmussen as the AD to Marcus Blossom, now taking over as going into year 2. How much has your role changed since that change has happened over the overall university? And what's it been like working with Marcus?
It's pretty similar. I mean, certainly Marcus is a little younger and more, and there's more of an emphasis on some of the social media side of things between him and his staff. That Ras, just
not exactly a Twitter
Ras
guy.
kind of leads that in our area, and there's just been more. It seems like there's been more of an emphasis on that. Bruce was a guy that was a Creighton for 40 years, so he knew everybody on campus, in the community, in the media, all that. And with Marcus, he's getting up to speed on who everybody is, what their role is, how they all work together. And then he's certainly got his own ideas to try to, how can we make this better? How can we take the next step? Hey, have we ever thought of doing this? And so it's a good mixture of trying to, keep all the stuff that's been working in the past and incorporating some of the new stuff to keep it fresh.
The answer to this is probably pretty obvious when we see Raz at state soccer at almost every basketball game. He was obviously at most of the women's basketball games as well. How much is he still kind of around and available to be a beacon of answers if anybody needs him? Is he still he stop by the office every now and then?
Not really. I mean, he doesn't stop by much. I think he'll always take a call, but I think, in talking to him, when he got out of coaching in 1992, he realized that his players were still going to him with issues. And it's like, no, it's not my team. You need to work this out with Connie Yori, who was the coach at the time that replaced him. And I think some of the lessons he learned then are some of the things now. Again, he's still there. I saw him at the World Series probably 4 or 5 days. He'd stop by, sit next to me for an inning, and then he'd move on because he'd have more people to see and host and everything else, because he's still very involved with the College World Series. But I think he's trying to do what he can to not, interfere with anything Marcus is trying to do.
Sure.
Because it's Marcus, he had a great run of almost 30 years and he retired and it's Marcus's turn to run things, and he doesn't want to impede anything Marcus is trying to get done. But Bruce is still around some, but it's not every day like we used to see him. But at the same time, if there's anything we'd ever need, he'd be the first one to help in any way possible.
Rob, going back to the College World Series with Creighton obviously being the host school there, is it a similar setup come March for college basketball? Are members from your staff staying when there are events here in Omaha to help out with everybody here in Omaha? Or are they traveling with you and with the team if we're lucky to keep playing?
I mean, it's still hosting, but for the NCAA, for the final weekend of not final weekend, but the NCAA baseball where it's the final, essentially the final grouping, final site. The NCAA brings in 3 full-time people, and there's probably 15, 20 people as part of our media coordination team that help with everything from press conferences to locker room escorts to photography liaisons and everything else. I would tell you the NCAA basketball hosting that is basically all on our staff and a great group of volunteers that we've compiled and assembled and all that. In my mind, the NCAA basketball hosting that is far and away the most difficult thing we do. I can't even put it into words. It's 100 times a regular, game. And you find out people don't believe us, but we literally are watching the selection show like everybody else in the world. And we're writing down like, oh, hey, these are the teams coming home. Okay, Kansas is coming. Okay. And then we sit down and we meet. Okay. This is where each team is staying, because there's a formula that we try to piece that in. And sometimes it's by seed, sometimes it's alphabetical. And then you're trying to figure out, wait, is UConn, is that a C or is that a U, for how you rank them alphabetically? And they haven't come here, but schools like that where you're trying to figure out, like, wait, are they going by their abbreviation or not? So that is, those teams like this year, it's a Thursday, Saturday site. They will come in. We'll find out Sunday night who's coming, and they're arriving Tuesday. They practice, doors open Wednesday morning at 8 a.m., 9 a.m., and then there's 8 practices that day and 4 games on Thursday, and then an off day, and then 2 more games Saturday, and then the teams are flying out Saturday night, and it's over before you know it. In the past, when Omaha has hosted, I've stayed behind. We're still trying to figure out what we're going to do this year, because we hope our men are going to be really good, and our women could be awfully good too. And if they're both playing in the postseason, it's hard to be 2 places. It's hard to be 2 places at once. And oh, by the way, at the same time, our baseball teams, our softball teams, our golf teams are still going too. And we can't put all the focus on just this, but it's
a good problem to have.
The basketball it keeps me up at
Rob Anderson, Creighton's SID, is joining us here on the Roll Jays podcast. Before we get to March, we got to get to November and everything in between. Obviously, the basketball season is just a few months away. When we're talking about the start of a season, like you said, on both sides, the men and the women have very high expectations this season. How much obviously that has an immense pressure in the locker room, on the court, and in the stands. How much do you guys feel that in your office? Like, is there a vibe around the office when expectations are high surrounding 1, 2, 3 teams at Creighton that are having high expectations put on them before the season starts?
Certainly this job, it's anytime the team's winning, it's a lot more fun. Everybody else you're around is a lot more fun to deal with. The crowds are better. The media attention's more. But we do try to be smart about it. And, we want our guys to have a life. There's so many media outlets, as you guys know, podcasts and all that it's like we can't have, Ryan Kalkbrenner do 19 different interviews every single day.
Right.
The story I think back to is 2014. Ethan Wragge had that game at Villanova, and the next day or the next 2 days, the whole world wanted to talk to him. And that was before all the podcasts were popular, but it was phone interviews and TV and video stuff and all that. And it was just, the team was off, and we basically spent like an hour and a half, 2 hours straight. Okay, here, now talk to this guy. Okay, now this guy's going to come in. And it was that over and over. And Ethan that was not his favorite part of being a basketball player, was all the media attention and talking about himself. And he got done, and he looks at me, he's like, is that like what Doug has to do like every day?
Probably
a
little more than that.
Doug had like 23 points that game, and nobody talked about Doug, and nobody could have been happier about that than Doug. I think a lot of these guys, they're not. They put up with me, but there's always a couple of guys that they see me coming, and they walk the other way and pretend like they're busy. Not today, I can't do it, and all that. So it's a juggling act to try to keep them sane, because as the year goes on, the media attention only intensifies, and then you get to the NCAA tournament, and by the time you get to the Elite Eight, there's the day before the Elite Eight, there was what was it? I think 30 minutes or an hour where it was an hour where we took Coach McDermott and our 5 starters to the podium, the dais,
Right.
and the starters go for a half hour, and then they leave. Coach stays up there, then they leave, and then each guy's got his own like little room that's probably got 30 chairs, and those guys each have like their own individual not press conference, but they're there, and people kind of come up to the table and ask them questions. And then while all that's going on, all our other guys, our assistant coaches, our in this case our reserves, we're all in the locker room and just kind of sitting there. That's where that picture of Samuel Osmani reading a book came from, and everybody's trying to turn it into, oh, he's trying to show up Princeton and all that. It's like, no, Sammy had an hour to kill with nothing. Sammy's not the most high-profile guy we have on our team when it comes to interviews where everybody's trying to talk to him. Instead of just sitting there staring at his phone, he just started reading a book, and then people take that and try to, oh, they're trying to show up Princeton and all that. It's like, no, he's just trying to occupy the time. But there's a lot of sitting around and waiting, by the end of the year with postseason stuff.
The question that's probably highest on your mind and probably you're most concerned about: do you get to go to the Bahamas this year?
I should. Yes, I'm on the list. I just logged in like a half hour ago. I don't have my passport yet, and there's all these stories if you look on the internet about passport delays, and they basically shut down all the passport office and got rid of all their workers during the pandemic, and now the whole world is trying to travel again, and they don't have they're overwhelmed by the applications. So it said I'm supposed to get my stuff July 25th. The team doesn't leave till August 3rd, so hopefully I've got a week, but cool. I've already got it on my calendar. If I don't have anything by July 27th to make some calls, that's a trip I definitely want to go on.
Well, hopefully this podcast is good luck for you. It'll drop the 25th. We'll follow up with you and see if you get your passport at that time. Rob, thank you very much for your time today. We appreciate all you do for us and all you do for Creighton University.
No problem. Thank you, guys.
We'll be right back with Creighton assistant coach Casey Matthews here on the Roll Jays podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing.
Do you need a customized online marketing plan and creative campaigns to help scale your business and achieve goals in 2023? Pixel Fire Marketing can not only help you achieve those goals, but we will help you crush them this year. Pixel Fire Marketing lives and breathes digital marketing. Pixel Fire Marketing has experts in strategic content creation, social media marketing, and website development. Check out Pixel Fire Marketing today and attack marketing in 2023.
Welcome back into the Roll Jays podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing. Alex Drake, Jimmy Allen, joined now by Creighton assistant coach Casey Matthews. Coach, despite you big timing us a couple weeks ago and not coming on, we appreciate you being here this week.
Yeah, you got it, man. I'm glad to be here. I had a lot of things scheduled, so I had to. It is what it is. So
yeah, I feel like I saw you on the red carpet out in LA for an event, and you're a hard man to get a hold of.
There's a lot, us video guys, we're pretty much the face of the franchise. We get sent a lot of places. So
maybe we should bring you onto this illustrious podcast and make so much money we could have you start doing some work for us too. Hey, but in all seriousness, you guys have been very much in the trenches from Mac all the way down to the lowest guy in the totem pole. What has the offseason been like for you personally after what last year was just a tremendous run all the way to the Elite Eight?
Yeah, so for us, first time ever making it that far. So obviously your season goes longer, cuts into your off season, which is a fantastic problem to have. So you get a little bit less, about a week than less than what we're normal. But the break, if you will, has been good this week. Our guys were able to go home and spend some time with their families, friends, travel a little bit. For us as a staff, our assistant coaches and Coach Mack are on the road recruiting pretty much nonstop. So they don't get as much of the break as guys like me do in our position. So I've enjoyed that a little bit. Have a little bit more time with the fam. Still working on things here and there, but it's been a nice week. In terms of the summer as a whole, we do camps for a decent chunk of the summer, obviously recruiting. And so for me personally, there's recruiting videos to make, film to watch, things of that nature, some odds and ends from Coach Mack. Coach doesn't ever stop watching film. He'll send me plays that he wants drawn all the time, and I don't know what the number is right now. I was keeping track. I was over like 100 something plays this off season that we've drawn for him, and he's a master of that stuff, man. You guys know. So he's always trying to improve, and so it's good. It's good for us to kind of be constantly looking at film and seeing what other coaches are doing and steal some ideas. So.
Well, you already answered my question. It was going to be what does the summer look like for a video coordinator? But you touched on watching a lot of like recruiting videos to make. Specifically, when you're watching, are you watching to help give an analysis of a player to the staff, or are they leaning on you for that kind of stuff?
No, not really. Every now and then maybe you get a question of, like the easy one is like, just what'd you think? And, maybe coach. But we have so many, we have so many like just really great basketball minds on our staff that, to be just frank, like they don't need my opinion on players, and I'm okay with that. So, Coach Lou watches a lot of that stuff and sort of, I don't know if you'd say signs off on it or not, but kind of, gives his stamp of approval, or they don't think he's the guy that we're looking for, kind of odds and ends there. But so my stuff is also like, when we get guys to come to campus, I'll put together a video for them that Coach Mack will sit in his office and show them and their family. And that video is style of play, how we play. And then I'll make another video for that player of how he plays. And that way coach can kind of compare and contrast that particular player's style with our style of play and how that player fits what we do.
I don't know if you can actually answer this correctly, or if you're allowed to say it on air. What's the weirdest thing Max ever asked you for?
The weirdest thing he's ever asked me?
Yeah. On film. Do you have something that you're like, oh, that's a little out of the new?
Or... I was thinking maybe something like, about barbecue. I was going to make like a butt joke or something, but with pork. But no, nothing really. I mean, I think one time early on he wanted to see like how a player turns and runs back in transition. Offensively, I think that was one thing. No, I mean, I'll give you a funny story though, if you want a funny story.
Absolutely.
I'll leave names out, but so there was we had a GA, and he, he's a great dude, but he was a little bit of an overthinker, and so we were playing Xavier, and it was back when God, what was that dude's name? Nate, I think it was Nate. Anyway, it doesn't matter. He was a shooter, 3-point shooter.
Nate Johnson.
It might have been Nate. It might have been Nate Johnson. I don't know. I think it was a little longer ago than that, though.
Okay.
But anyway, it doesn't matter. So we're getting ready for this game, and the GA goes to Mac and says, "Coach, like I read on Twitter that he sprained his ankle," and like everybody knew that. It was pretty big news. And Mac acted kind of surprised, like, "Are you serious? Like he might not play?" And he's like, "Yeah, they're not sure if he's going to play." So Mac said, "Okay, just in case, go back and watch all his 3-point shots and find out what foot he jumps off of, and so that we know if he is hurt." And like he just made this like random like thing up, and then, okay, coach, I got it. So I walk in. We shared an office, so I walk in. He's in here, and I see him just watching all this film. Like, what are you doing? He's like, "Well, coach, you heard coach ask me like." He wanted to see what foot he's going to jump off of for threes because he sprained his ankle. And I'm like, you got to be joking. So I went over to coach and I said, "Coach, is this real?" And he's like, "No, but play along. Like, this is funny." So,
He doesn't need to know that.
Oh, it is so funny. Mac loves that stuff. Like Mac knows when to lock in and be serious, obviously, but he's always wanting to have a good time. And
apparently this anonymous GA didn't realize that Greg McDermott is also on Twitter. You brought it up, and it's been a rolling theme. We're on episode 9 of this podcast, and every assistant we've talked to has brought up the grill and their specialty, what they do in the barbecue. At the Matthews household, is there a go-to when the grill gets fired up?
Yeah. Pork butts, pork shoulders, depending on what you want to call it.
Sure.
That's my go-to. That and chicken wings. I love some smoked chicken wings, but I do it all. Last summer I did some beef cheeks. I've done. I mean, you kind of name it, I'll throw it on there. And,
here's the part that separates the boys from the men.
Okay.
Charcoal, gas, or electric?
Charcoal. Yeah. Hey, I've got a
well, I think we left a very important one out. I think we left out pellets.
Pellets, yeah, I get it.
They kind of fall into the same realm of charcoal.
Yeah, it's I use it's called a Kamado Joe. Everybody likes to fool with me and say it's a big green egg, and those are great products too. But the Kamado Joe is my baby, so that's what I cook on and love it. It's like I've got 2 little kids, so I can't really do a whole lot of hobbies outside the house.
Same.
So so smoking meat, that's what I do. So
we just got done talking to Rob Anderson, and he brought up he's waiting on passport information for the Bahamas. Are you able to go on that trip as well?
Oh yeah. I'm bringing the wife and kids. We're fired up. I've got a 5 and a 4-year-old, two daughters, and so it'll be their first time out of the country. And yeah, we're so excited. So yeah, it's gonna be a great time.
You're gonna get out of the country before I do.
we gotta get you out, Alex. We're excited, man. We're excited. It's gonna be a good time. It's perfect timing for the team. To have so many new guys and young guys, and
when do you guys officially leave? Do you know?
August 3rd.
Okay.
Yeah.
Obviously this is a once in every 4-year thing that can happen where you guys can go internationally. After this is done, how do you know when the discussion starts happening about the next one? Obviously, it's kind of hard to plan 4 years out, but do you know about when those discussions start to come about?
Yeah, I mean, that stuff is planned far in advance. This one was actually interesting because we went to Australia last time.
Right.
I remember being on the plane back from Australia and talking to Coach Murph, because he does a lot of that stuff, and him saying, I think we're going to come back here in 4 years. So he had already kind of been thinking about it. And this one ended up being planned a little bit later than normal, but most of the time you're at least you've got some irons in the fire, if you will, 3 years out. And then, as you get closer every summer, you kind of narrow it down where you want to go. And so for us, it ended up being the best opportunity was the Bahamas for us this year.
So I think Jimmy's follow-up question was going to be, we're counting on you to vouch for us to be on the next one.
Yeah, I already said it. Actually, I did, and then I got left off the podcast list. So I vetoed it, but we'll see what happens in this next few weeks. See if we can get you back on the list.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Jimmy.
No, obviously, we during the season we couldn't help but give every coach that came on Blue Jay Overtime a hard time about their Hawaiian shirts. Is there a team uniform that you guys are planning on wearing that isn't exactly sanctioned while you guys are on the beach?
It's funny. My wife the other day was going through the closet, and she pulls out the Hawaiian shirts, and she's like, "Can we please get rid of these?" And I said, "Well, babe, we're going to the Bahamas in a couple of weeks. I don't know if we want to be wearing those." So I've got them ready, locked and loaded. I got them dry cleaned. So if we're wearing them, I'm ready to go. But I'm trying to think. In Australia, I don't believe we had one. I think we just wore just sort of whatever. But
does that mean Mrs. Matthews was a bigger fan of the Bahamas than Hawaii then?
Mrs. Matthews has never been to the Bahamas. So,
okay.
She enjoyed Hawaii. It's funny. I saw something just a little while ago, some Instagram video of like a mom talking about going on vacation. And she was saying when she's just with her husband, it's a vacation. When it's her husband and the kids, it's just a relocation. So I don't know.
Was the video from my wife?
Yeah. It ends up being, when you got kids, it ends up being a lot of fun. but also a lot of work, and it ends up falling on the wives usually most of the time. So yeah, so I'm pretty lucky in that area, but she'll have a great time. I mean, I've been on this foreign trip now. This is the third time to the Bahamas. So, but I've never gotten to stay at Atlantis. So I'm pretty fired up about that, but so it'll be a great time. We'll have awesome time.
Coach, we've talked a lot about your role specifically, and in my opinion, I think it is one of the most undervalued in the sport. But can you talk about, like, what's your favorite part of the job on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, I'll sound pretty cheesy, Alex, but my favorite part of what I do is my relationships with our players. And I know you'd think like a video guy, I probably would say all the X's and O's, but that stuff's fun. I love hoops, but there's just nothing better than just getting to know guys, getting to be a part of their lives, and and just being a mentor of sorts, a big brother to a lot of these guys. I mean, this summer I was at Jacob Epperson's wedding, it's at Mitch Ballock's wedding, and to be there for those moments is awesome. It's incredible, and you got guys that are having babies, you got players that just graduated and they started as a doctor here in Omaha that I've get to see. It's just stuff like that really makes what I do special to me. Outside of that, in terms of like the actual basketball stuff, I would tell you I spend a lot of time during our season on scouting. That's pretty much my job during our season. And so, the scouting opponents is fun, and identifying trends, and then being able to like feel like you're contributing in your staff meetings. Because of my position, I can't do anything on the court, and I'm not supposed to really coach per se. So when you get an opportunity to be able to help, contribute to a game plan, that's a lot of fun. And for me in this position, I'm really fortunate to work with someone or for someone that allows me to have a voice and encourages me to have a voice. And then it's just up to me to understand the right time, and that my voice doesn't always need to be heard, but when it does need to be heard, I need to be ready. And I think that's what Coach Mack he's just great, because like I said, he wants that. He's not the guy that's like, you're the video guy, you're the graduate assistant, whatever the position is. Like, if you're in that room, then he trusts you, and he wants to hear what you have to say. And so those are great memories and moments.
I have to ask, there's this picture under your profile on Creighton's website where you're showing somebody something on a computer, and then Mac is standing directly behind you. Are you the default IT guy when things aren't working on a computer?
Yeah. I am. So my background before I got into hoops was sales, and specifically computer sales and computer repair. So everywhere I've been the IT guy, and it depends on the staff. It depends on how much that title gets used. It gets used a lot here.
I'm sure.
And so that's good. But yeah, that picture was actually him asking me to show him something that just happened on film. I told you, Max intense with film, and I think I've told this before, Jimmy. He's got, like, his memory is unbelievable, and like, he's a fantastic basketball coach, better person than he is coach, but I'm telling you, his memory is crazy. So, it's so rare for him to say, yeah, this happened, and then see it on film and it was different than exactly what he said. So that moment, I think he was wanting to see a play so he could coach. It was probably Mitch doing something, and that was a long time ago.
That's who's in that picture. So yes, I would assume that's what it was.
Was it Mitch? Perfect.
Yeah, good call. You brought it up, and a major portion of your job is watching film on players, and a lot of guys coming back this year, but a lot of new additions. Of the new additions from Isaac to Jonathan Lawson, Steve Ashworth, whoever it may be, who are you the most excited to see if their film coordinates from what you saw from where they were to playing in this offense?
It's got to be Steven. Because obviously when you lose someone like a Ryan Nembhard, who, like, the kid had the ball in his hand so much that, you think about shots and you think about, what's our team built on in terms of spacing and a fast moving offense. And then all those things are true. But Ryan Nembhard had the ball in his hand a ton. So to bring somebody in, it's not easy that you can bring somebody in and say, okay, here's the ball. Now obviously with Trey, we knew we were in good shape no matter what, because Trey can handle that point guard spot too. But he's also a very good off the ball guard. So you want to have somebody that complements that. So I think when we were able to recruit Steven and eventually get Steven, super exciting, because we all know he shoots the heck out of the ball. I mean, it's when it leaves its hand, you just think it's going in. And I know that sounds cheesy, but there's not a lot of players like that every time they shoot, you just assume that the ball is going in. So that's a huge deal for us, because I do think we can be better in certain areas and space the floor a little bit more. In practice, what I've seen is he creates for his teammates better than I thought he would do. He sees the court better, and our thing, we'd like to throw a lot of flip ups towards the rim for Big Caulk to go get him, and he does that amazingly well. So, I'm super excited to see him play in the Bahamas and actually go up and down against another opponent. But he's been everything that we thought he was gonna be and more so far. And I'm really excited about all the guys. I mean, obviously Isaac Trout being a local guy, I think he's so versatile and can it's going to be difficult for opponents, I think, to game plan against him, because we can play him at different spots and do different things with him. So yeah, I mean, I could go through the list, but I would have to say if I got to nail one down, I'd have to go with Steven.
Well, we greatly appreciate you being here, Coach, and we'll make sure we don't skip you in the rotation next time. Thank you so much for your time today. That's video coordinator and assistant coach Casey Matthews. We'll be back next week with a whole new list of guests and maybe a few more players as well. Coach, thank you very much. We'll catch up with you down the road.
Yeah. Have a great rest of your summer, guys. Appreciate you. All you do.
Too.
Enjoy the Bahamas.
We will.
That was the Roll Jays podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing.